Okay, well, hello everyone. This is Wednesday, right? Happy New Day. The time for me is 2:30 a.m. and I'm already up. I slept at 9 p.m. I've had sleep struggles for, years, and I'm an early bed. It's just like, 3 a.m. will be my normal time, or 3:30 a.m. will be my normal time to wake up. So if I wake up at 2, if I put in 5 hours of sleep, that's, kind of good for me. 6 hours maximum. If I get to 7, then that should be a miracle. So this particular chapter, my name is Maria Banga and I am a psychotherapist, lawyer. Okay, well, for the purpose of this reading experience, I'm just a woman living with post-traumatic stress disorder, and reading this book, What Happened to You by Dr. Perry and Oprah. It's actually taking me back in time and even bringing me forward again, trying to connect the dots of my life. And actually, the chapter I am going to share my experience reading, or how I felt while reading it and what's going on in my life, is called Connecting the Dots. And I think it's the 6th chapter or something like that. I can't really remember. I read this book in such a haze. I had to stop because my head was blah, 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 blah. So I decided to continue reading next week. So I'm just doing kind of sharing my experience reading all those chapters before. But I think this is the last chapter. And so I will stop and then I will continue doing this kind of book review of my reading journey next week. Okay, so this chapter is called Connecting the Dots, and it's trying to help us to learn how to connect the dots in our lives by even understanding what we call transgenerational transmission. Oprah asked Dr. Perry a great question. What's the question? Is it possible for a heightened sense of fear to be inherited? Is it possible for a heightened sense of fear to be inherited? And what does Dr. Perry say? He said, let me expand the question. So he doesn't just answer that question. He says, it is not just about what happened to us, but it's a bit complicated. We absorb things from previous generations and pass them on to the next generation. So in a nutshell, it is possible, and we don't only inherit, but we also transmit. So we have to be careful to know that whatever we are doing in our lives, however we are feeling, all of these things, we transmit them to the next generation. So if there's anything we got and we don't like, we have to look for a way to break that cycle. Sometimes in some church settings and in some places, they'll call it a generational curse. We want to break the cycle. Well, as far as mental health is concerned, it could also be generational trauma, and stuff like that. And Oprah uses that example, the example of sleeping with her grandma and her grandfather coming in and strangling her grandmother because the grandfather was living with dementia, right? So I don't know what happened, why was the grandmother or his wife or something like that, but that's what happened, and they had to she called her cousin who lived not too far away to come. Even though the cousin was blind, he came. I can remember the cousin's name, Harry. And it is that fear that small Oprah, sleeping next to her grandma, felt. She felt the fear from her grandma and she inherited that fear, And so one day in her condo in Chicago, after the first shooting had just occurred and there was fear the whole place, she was so scared to sleep alone in that condo, although she was on the 57th floor, that she had to go and check into a hotel nearby. My goodness. Oh, Oprah. Okay, that means I'm doing good. So what does Oprah say in the end? She says that I now have the tools and understanding to step back, observe what I'm feeling, and choose how to move through the fear. I once wrote a book, What's the Worst Case Scenario? Fighting the Fear Within, Mindful of My Mental Challenges. I've written books about my journey, right? I love my books because I look back at them and I'm like, yeah, girl, you had some sense, so you wrote all of this. So this is what Oprah invites us to do as we read this chapter. as you consider your individual response patterns, know that by putting a small moment of space between the immediate feeling and your instinctive reaction, you are allowing yourself to stay present and ultimately regain control. And is that not what we all want? So it's very important to consider your response pattern. That's what I studied in emotional intelligence, and that's what I teach some people. And I'm like, I wanted to even teach in some school, but what is emotional intelligence? So nobody is calling me back, but no problem. Anyway, so we have to learn to put a small moment of space between the immediate feeling and the immediate action, whatever, and our instinctive reaction. It's very important because when we do so, we allow ourselves to stay present and ultimately regain control. We don't want to lose control. So this is just what I'm going to say, and that this chapter actually helped me really look back into my own family tree and also into my own life now, and to say, well, even if I inherited some things from my family, what I'm going to call mental DNA, emotional DNA, I don't have to pass that on. I can pass on something better or something different, and it makes you live a very conscious life, all round. It's just like if you are working out and stuff, you are inspiring your children to work out, and then they start working out, and that's how it's just going to continue. But if you are just there like that, they too, there's no motivation, there's no inspiration in the house, and they are just there too like that. So that's what I wanted to share with regards to my reading experience today. I think this was the last chapter indeed that I read, where I stopped reading. Let me see, is there another one? No, that's chapter 5. The next chapter is from coping to healing, but I want to start that one next week because there's another one called post-traumatic wisdom, our brains, our biases, and whatsoever. Relational hunger. These ones are tough topics, eh? What we need now. So the 5 remaining chapters, I think I can handle that next week because I will have really processed everything and then told myself it's okay to go back there, but now you have the tools to do something better with what you get from your journey in there. Okay, everybody. If you're going to get the book, I'm sure you're going to enjoy the read. If not, enjoy my experiences, and maybe just think about yours too. And until next week for the continuation of these episodes, God bless us all.